10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Liftoff, and the clock is starting.
The clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And as we drive at high speed through the wasteland, it's time now for Kerbalcast episode 50, Beyond Thunderdome.
There's only one surefire way back into a woman's heart and parts beyond. I speak, of course, of karaoke.
I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, and with me as always, our CMP, Command Module Pilot,
Nostromo.
Coming up in today's program, Planet Hopping, Back to Eve, and Happy Landings. It's our progress in the game.
Your letters and tweets in the mission briefing.
And another episode of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals.
And in this episode, we debut the latest single from a new album by Professor Soap.
And I have to give a shout out to Haywood Floyd. He is the one who suggested our opening soundbite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Futurama.
And I also have to point out that if anybody is looking for any semblance of logic in Kerbalcast, the opening to today's program should dispel that notion right away.
Yeah.
Our episode title, Beyond Thunderdome, is a reference to Mad Max.
Because of the new Mad Max movie.
Which is great. We follow it with a soundbite from Futurama, which is a reference to our off-topic digression about karaoke in the last episode. So we've got Mad Max, Futurama, and karaoke all in the first minute of the show, and none of them have anything to do with anything. There's no logic there at all. Technically, what I really should have done, since the episode's called Beyond Thunderdome and it's a reference to Mad Max, what I should have had was 2 men enter, 1 man leave.
Yeah.
But no. I had to go with Zap Brannigan.
Yeah.
So anyway, shout out to Haywood Floyd.
So, Futurama's always good, but the more topical thing is Mad Max was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that movie.
So if you can't see it, go see it. Which is actually funny because last weekend I missed the chance to see it 4 times. So like the first time the girlfriend...
Why? Was something happening last weekend?
Yeah, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
The girlfriend wanted to see it. It was like 10 p.m. Or no, I wanted to see it. And the girlfriend said, it's 10 p.m. I'm going to have to go to bed right after this. And I don't think I could. And I was like, okay.
Because it's so intense.
And like the next day, we go to see it.
What a lovely day.
We go to see it after hanging out at the game shop. And she was like, okay, we have this time and we'll go see it. Mm-hmm. And so we went to go see it, and we stopped to get some food first, and she accidentally left her purse at the restaurant. Ooh. So we had to run back and get it, and we missed the time for it.
Nice.
Well, then the next day, she's like, okay, we're going to see it right after I get out of work. And I'm like, okay, I really want to see this movie. Let's see it. So we go see it, and we show up at the theater, and it's, it was already a minute 2 past the time, which is no big deal because there's so many trailers.
Right.
But it was 3D, and we didn't want to spend the money, and we didn't want to see it in 3D.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh,
I hate 3D.
On the other side of town, well, if it's done right, it's actually kind of nice. Like Gravity in 3D was amazing.
Right.
But like most of the time, I'm like, no, it's like gimmicky or whatever. On the other side of town, there was a showing that was in like 15 minutes, and so we get all the way over there, and it's sold out. And so there's like 4...
Wait a minute. To get to a Mad Max showing, you drove like Mad Max to get to the Mad Max showing?
I did. I was like, seeing it in 3D would probably be, it's going to be way cheaper than the ticket I'm probably going to get. But driving fast to this movie does kind of work. So I was like speeding the whole way there, and we get there and it's sold out.
Did your girlfriend spray your mouth with chrome? What a lovely day.
After missing it 4 times, I thought I may have been on Chrome the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And then I finally saw it last night, and it was amazing.
Doesn't Chrome, doesn't that sound like a future punk kind of drug?
Yeah. It's like, oh man, he's hyped up on Chrome. He could do anything.
I'm William Gibson burning Chrome.
So that was the disappointing thing from last weekend. But the exciting thing from last weekend is...
What? Tell me.
Biff got married. Yeah. So congratulations, Biff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And who was my best man?
Me.
You were.
Yeah. I should have said that was the most exciting part is you got to have me as the best man.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Thank you so much for doing that. I had talked about, in episodes previous to this one, I had talked a lot about my girlfriend and, how she was perfect for me and blah, blah, blah. Well, we finally did it. This should show you how off the wall we are. Our venue was a dog park. I'm not kidding. We went to, those fenced in parks where dogs can run free, dog parks. That's literally where we did it. And the dogs were the flower dogs.
Yeah. There was, attendance was very high.
Yeah. 4 people.
The crowd was a little, the crowd was a little unruly. The dogs are all over the place.
There was a giant dog at the dog park that found a huge mud hole.
Oh God, that dog was crazy.
The dog was bigger than I was.
It was like black fur. It came out of that mud puddle and the dog was brown. That thing was nuts.
Oh, it had its face buried in the mud.
I just imagine the guy that brought the dog, like he brought the dog and in the first minute it did that and he was like, not in my car, and he just left it.
Well, and there, of course, my lovely bride is dressed all in white.
Yeah.
And she's looking at that dog with absolute terror.
It's like,
get away!
This is going to be nuts. It was crazy.
The wedding at the dog park.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Years ago, and this actually answers a question that's coming up in the tweets. So I'll just be brief about this because we'll talk about this in a little bit. But years ago, I just kind of on a lark took a part-time job at a video game store. And that's how I met Nos. And it amazes me how much followed from that.
Yeah.
The whole reason that I know you and we're doing a podcast stems from that. The whole reason you were best man at my wedding stems from this part-time job I got at a video game store.
Yeah. It's like, great things from
small
beginnings.
From little things.
Yeah.
I should say just to the side, I used to drive Nos absolutely nuts at the video game store because I loved messing with customers. And it drove him bonkers.
It was funny because like you're not twice my age, but you're like
thank you,
but you're close. And so, but I was in charge, like I was management.
Yeah.
And so people would come in and they would talk to you, and you would start messing with them, and I would walk out of the back room, or I'd be doing something else. Like what are you telling these people?
I will never forget the day. We actually had a customer come up to me, and they wanted to know how I had been passed over for promotion in favor of you.
I remember that.
I was like, this is not my full-time job. I'm just doing this for a goof.
Yeah. It's like I was the guy in charge.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I used to, just to give you a sample of what I used to do, this one lady was buying a game for her kid, and she said to me, you have to understand, I can say virtually anything with a straight face. I am renowned for my straight face ability. I can say the most absurd things and have a completely straight face. And the woman was buying a game, and she said, is this gonna turn my kid into a psychotic killer? And without missing a beat, I said, no, ma'am, that costs extra.
Yeah.
And there was that pause, and then everybody started laughing because it took them a second to catch up.
Yeah.
But that's why, in case you're curious why the profits at that video game store dropped off for a whole year, it's because they hired me.
But we do want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for being there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great day. And, we only had, literally we had 4 people there. Me, my now wife.
Yeah.
You, and my now wife's mother. Who, by the way, loves you.
I'm a charmer.
You're a charmer. She thinks you're very intelligent.
Oh.
You're very well spoken. You're very interesting.
Well, I used to work in sales, so.
But she did confide in me later.
Oh.
She's disappointed about one thing.
What's that?
She feels like you haven't put enough effort into Rendezvous. Because she was following your progress, and she was real pleased that first time you did it.
Yeah.
And now she feels like you just haven't.
They keep updating the game. I have to start over every time. It's ridiculous. So,
by the way, we just had a doggy ear flap. So,
so congratulatory drink for
well, thank
everybody.
you, thank you very much. Let's talk a little bit about Kerbal.
I gotta say, I'm glad my girlfriend doesn't listen to this because there's no pressure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was gonna say, I think the pressure is on you now. A year from now, we're gonna be wondering if Nos is getting married.
Yeah. So, oh, now you set a clock on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Why we got to
That's
throw
true.
out numbers?
I have to thank you, by the way, for making the suggestion that we should have done the whole thing live on Kerbalcast.
Gonna Twitch stream it. I saw
That would have been the shortest marriage ever.
I saw two people Twitch stream a date one time, and it was awful.
Oh, God.
it was so bad.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first dates are bad enough, but then you
First
add the
dates
pressure
of an audience
Yeah.
and doing it on the internet.
Yeah.
And like they were on separate computers, and so it was so bad.
ouch.
Yeah.
Well, have you had a chance to do any Kerbaling this week?
Yeah. Not a lot, but
There's a shock.
yeah, I know. We're hitting near the end of the contract, so they're like, "Hey, let's do overtime." So I'm working
Right.
like 50 hours in about 3.5 days, you know, kind of stuff. So I did get a little bit last night, prepping for my garage sale. If anyone would like to come to my garage sale, good luck finding me because I'm not telling you where I live. So
Yeah, that defeats the whole purpose of a garage sale.
So-
you have to tell people where the garage is.
no, you get a discount if you can find it.
Yeah.
So
What I think's funny is where we live, it's supposed to rain all weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And you chose that weekend.
I didn't know that. I don't even live here half the week, so I can't watch the weathercast and just like, oh, we'll see what happens.
You should really blow people's mind and have a going out of business garage sale.
That could be kind of morbid when you think about it.
Everything must go.
Yeah. So my Kerbaling this week, I'm basically trying to get more science because I know how to do a really good Munlander, and I just need to get those parts.
Right.
So I've been doing some contracts. I switched my campaign from being gaining funds to gaining science, which I actually think I did that a little too soon. I think I need to go back to funds so I can upgrade my VAB and so I can get higher. I don't remember if it's the VAB or the launch pad. I'll look it up later. Don't tell me. To increase my part count because my part count is still 30, which is kind of flimsy. So I'm going to upgrade that, and then I'm going to get a whole bunch more science so I can unlock the fuel tanks I need because I'm on these dinky fuel tanks. It's like almost embarrassing how small these things are. So I'm gonna unlock those.
Size does matter.
It does. Don't believe the lies. It does. In fuel tanks. I don't know what you were
fuel
thinking
tanks.
about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to unlock those. I did unlock. I was like, you know what? There's a lot of like go to this location or go to that location things, and you know everyone says it was easier. So I got SpacePlane parts.
Right.
You know, I got some wheels, and I got just more fins. I don't even use half these fins. What do you do with half the? What do you even do with them? You know what?
Have you noticed with the SpacePlane parts that the appearance of them, because they're very visually, they're very appealing. They're very angular, and I mean they really look nice. But have you noticed that the visual appeal is directly proportional to how functional? It's like the better it looks, the worse it functions.
Yeah,
it's like it does less.
Yeah, it's like you're paying extra for like all the spit shine
it's like
on it.
It's like you've got it's like you need a minivan and you've got a sports car.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's very good. So I slapped this thing together, and Freetoss is probably screaming. And so it's like I put all of it together and I fly it. It doesn't really work that well, and so I'm like, okay, man, I'm just gonna make it smaller so it doesn't weigh as much because I'm not using fuel. I got an air intake, got a basic engine, so like the amount of fuel I'm using is nothing. So I was like, oh, I need one less fuel tank, and the thing fell forward on the launch pad. It was like donk. I was like, okay, I got too much weight in the front. I need to move the wheels forward a bit. And I eventually get, I'm calling him the scooter, like this little tiny plane, and I can fly it. And
question: are you actually taking off on the runway?
No, I'm rolling off of that thing. That thing's gross. Like, I'm not going to upgrade it because I can go to the land that's just next to it and have just as easy a time flying off of it. Because like the land next to runway
Very
is
smooth.
flat.
Yeah.
So why does he even bother with the runway? They could have just left it flat. Go, come on, Kerbal engineers. What are you thinking? So I just roll off of that.
You do realize Squad just heard that and went, oh, yeah, we need to mess up the terrain around the runway.
Yeah, we need to make the terrain covered in speed bumps.
Thanks a lot, Nos.
Yeah. So I just take off from there. And, I got the little guy going. And he's not the fastest thing in the world, but he flies, So, we're going around. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. I'm like, I'm going to try to land it. And that's never worked out.
Yes.
So I tried it. So I had...
Were you waiting for a snarky comment?
No. I was just letting the impact of that just stay.
Yeah.
Because much like the impact that Scooty had on the ground.
Was that his name, Scooty?
Yeah. So I had old Scooty going. At first, I just cut the engines, and I was like, I'll just glide it down, and I realized that was not a good option.
Right.
So eventually, I put on some thrust in order to keep the nose up, and I had a good touchdown, and I was rolling. And I was hitting the brakes, and I was still rolling, and it wouldn't stop. And every time I hit a bump, I'd go back up in the air for a little bit and come down. And I'm like, oh goodness! And
well, you had good glide characteristics, apparently.
Yeah, and so it just kept going. It was almost like I was on the Mun, whenever you're going with a rover, and it just it's easy going.
Right.
And I see a cliff coming up, like a mountainous thing, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's really not good. And so I hit the brakes too much, and the whole thing just, one wheel just had its day, completely popped, and the whole thing just rolled, and it was all over with. So I'm going to try it one more time just to land him, because I think I can land that thing.
Right.
So I'm going to buzz the tower, land that guy, and be good. I also had
you're going to do the Maverick, huh?
Yeah. I also lost my first parts to reentry because I was launching a capsule, and I launched it and had it come down. And it was a command pod, a Science Junior, and it had some wings on it, just because I wanted to put wings on it.
Right.
And I usually put it on the previous stages, but the part that's going to land, I don't bother to put the wings on. But it entered upside down, so it was going parachute first. And I was like, And it was
and parachutes don't like that.
Yeah, but it was holding pretty well. But I was like, I need to flip this thing before something happens. So I popped the chute, and it flipped me back. And I was like, okay. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
But I lost all 4 wings in the process, and significant damage to the Science Junior, but it still held. It had a
that's good.
It had a heat shield on the bottom of the Science Junior.
Okay.
So I just had a real weird reentry pod. It was just kind of tall.
Right.
But the whole thing landed, and it was fine. But yeah, I think the things I'm going to work on whenever I get a chance is I'm going to try to land Scooty just to land him, and then maybe actually build something worthwhile that I could fly around, because I want the inline cockpit so I can carry passengers around. But that's pretty much the breadth and depth of my progress, I think.
Word of advice, and this is something I learned from Freetoss.
Quit.
Now, Freetoss would never tell you that. Freetoss would tell you that space planes are easy.
Yeah.
And we know how true that is. Not. No, put a flag at both ends of the runway. Put one, I just have one. I mean, literally, I have one that says runway east and runway west.
Oh, okay. So,
and you target them. And it helps you because it actually gives you a target to bring your ship in. So,
at the end, at either end of the runway?
Yeah, well, I have a flag on both ends of the runway, and I mean, when I say at the end, I mean just like a couple of steps into the grass, boom, I put a flag.
Okay, so the long end of the runway, you have one here and one here. Okay, right. I thought you had one at each corner at the end of the runway.
No. I've got it's centered.
I guess that's cool if you want to fly between them.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're foot tall.
So. No, I've got one. They're centered at both ends of the runway, and obviously the one that's closest to the sea, is runway east, and then the other one is runway west.
Okay,
because obviously the sun comes up.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Goes down. Yeah, what I did was I had been messing around because Freetoss had told me that he wanted me to follow along, and so I have been applying his lessons, and I did manage to actually now that he has instructed me on how to actually build a plane, plane/space plane, ear flaps again.
Yeah.
Take another drink. I can very easily now build planes that get off the ground.
Yeah.
Now, what happens to them once they're off the ground, that's a whole different story. Because I still have not quite figured out flying. Mm-hmm. You have to use your Q and E keys a lot more when you fly a plane than you do with a rocket. I mean, with a rocket, it's
pretty much
WASD.
like, yeah, you pretty much never use Q and E.
Yeah,
you know?
But I mean, my experience has been, you actually turn more with your Q and E keys, and I'm sure somebody's going to write in and go, no, that's not right.
Yeah,
but that's been my experience. If I want to make turns, I seem to if I'll kind of if I'll bank the ship and then start using my WASDs. WASDs, like there's more than one.
Yeah.
If I do that, that seems to maneuver me around a lot more efficiently than if I just stick to the WASD keys. I used a stock plane, and I went, it's the, top of my head, I think it's like the X1 Lear or something like that. But I used it, I got up into orbit, I did an orbit, and then I actually literally brought it down and landed it. And yes, I landed it on the big open field, but I had just enough momentum left that I actually rolled onto the runway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I landed in the field ahead of the runway.
Uh-huh.
And the whole time, because see, I didn't realize you could do that.
Approaching from the west?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah.
And so, and I was coming in and I was coming in and I was thinking, okay, I mean, this whole thing's about to bomb. Mm-hmm. And no, it just touched down just beautifully. And it just rolled nicely right onto the runway, and it came to a complete stop about halfway down the runway.
Yeah.
And I part of me was like, I wanted to brag that I had made, like my first landing, yay. And then I thought, well, technically it wasn't my first landing on the runway.
Yeah.
It was like half on the runway. But the way I did it was I targeted the east runway flag.
Okay. Yeah.
And because when you're coming in, it's very difficult to just visually judge how you're coming in. Mm-hmm. If you target the flag, you can watch your nav ball, and that will align you. So anyway, that was a trick that Freetoss taught.
The fully upgraded runway, does it have lights and stuff on it?
Remember, I'm playing.
So it should be fully upgraded.
Yeah, for me, because remember, I'm Sandbox.
Yeah, so in Sandbox, it should just be fully upgraded.
Oh, yeah.
So does it have lights and stuff on it?
Yeah, and it's got stewardesses, and there's like a band that comes out and plays when you land. And
man, I need to upgrade.
There's like roadies and
I see why
it's
expensive now.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
There's like Kerbal.
Yeah, it's got swimming pools and
there's like Kerbal protesters. We should never leave the ground.
Right,
stuff.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll do the fun thing more so I can unlock that.
Yeah. It also has like a drive-in theater at the end, so you can go watch movies.
Good.
They're always showing Armageddon for some reason.
Yeah,
I never could figure that out. But yeah, anyway, so I pulled off my first landing. I couldn't believe it. It was with a stock plane, though. I have yet to get a BIF creation off the ground, into orbit, back down, and land.
Yeah, see, in Korea, you can't use the stock planes.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I looked, and I was like, I don't have any stock planes in here. So
the reason I went to stock planes was I had been having so much trouble with BIF creations that I thought, I'm going to use a stock plane and see what I can learn from it, which is the advantage to the stock in the game. That's one of the things I love about the stock planes, is that, you really can, if you have questions, you can go to a stock something, use it, learn from it, and then turn around and try and do it.
Like, okay, they put this here, that makes sense because of this.
Yeah. I mean, because, really, when I did bring that in, there were some things that I wasn't quite clear on. But once I actually brought one in, it was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Now I understand why you put certain things in certain places.
Yeah, because otherwise you're trying to like build something without knowing exactly everything it needs.
I did make it was designed to be a single stage to orbit, and I did get it literally, off the ground and into orbit, and I deorbited it, and it looked kind of like it was almost like a steampunk hybrid of a rocket and a shuttle, if you can imagine that. And I did manage to deorbit it, and I brought it into the atmosphere. And I actually thought that I was going to succeed. And what happened is, as soon as I hit the upper atmosphere, that thing started tumbling, and I could never regain control.
Yeah.
And it was like that all the way to the ground. I mean, literally all the way to the ground. It was still tumbling, and I could never stop it. So obviously something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you bring something back and it tumbles and crashes, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Something didn't work out.
yeah. The other thing, aside from messing around with space planes, the other thing I did, I had told you that I wanted a self-sustaining ship.
Mm-hmm.
I went all the way to the Duna system.
The Voyager.
Yes, Voyager,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With Valentina Janeway. Landed on Ike, refueled, and came back. The mining is amazing because it changes the way you build ships. You do not need big ships with mining.
Yeah.
As long as you have storage and refining capacity, you can build much smaller ships because you can refuel as you go.
You could even have those gas stations, those floating gas stations we had before, and they could just continually refuel themselves, so you don't have
Right.
to send a new tanker.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I really like the resource gathering because it really does, it fundamentally changes the game. You really can. I haven't done, I mean, I've done a all the way to Duna and back mission now. And I've already done Mun and back and Minmus and back, but I have yet to do a planet to planet mission. Mm-hmm. But you can do it now, and you can do it with much smaller ships, because the ability to refuel on the fly gets rid of the need for big ships. Because prior to resource gathering, you had to take everything you needed. Everything you needed for a mission had to be on the launch pad when you started. And you had to either guesstimate or do some major calculations. But you had to figure out what you needed to complete a mission, and you had to leave the ground with it. Mm-hmm. And then, you came back with, the tip of what was left.
Yeah.
Resource gathering changes that completely. Mm-hmm. And Voyager started out, as I said before, it started out as a very big ship. And each successive mission, Voyager got smaller and smaller and smaller, and it finally is now one tiny little ship that lands on the planet or moon all by itself. Not all by itself. I mean, just the ship itself. Yeah. I mean, I'm still flying it. But it lands, it mines the ore, it refines it, it refuels the tanks, and it returns. And it is much smaller, which is something I had never done before. So bravo to Squad. I mean, they have fundamentally changed the game with resource gathering.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I got real curious about, that for quite a long time I was really wrestling with Eve. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the problems with Eve is that it takes a lot to get down and it takes a lot to get back up. And I thought, I wonder, now that you can do resource gathering, I wonder if that has changed Eve. And so I sent Voyager to Eve.
There's also the new aerodynamics model on Eve.
Yes. Which I'm glad you said that, because in the past, when I went to Eve, I was using that really thick atmosphere to deorbit. Mm-hmm. Not so much.
Oh.
Well, the first thing that happens is that it flips me around face first.
Yeah.
So now I'm entering, and I mean, the entire ship is on fire. And I'm sitting there watching, because, you've got the little temperature meters. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there watching every part overheat. And it's like, the solar panels go, and the antenna goes, and, pretty soon the parachutes go. And I mean, it's just like boom, boom, boom. And pretty soon, and then of course, the capsule itself goes. And it's like, okay, now obviously that's the end of the mission when you kill the crew.
Yeah.
So I have to deorbit with Eve now, thanks to the new aerodynamic model. I mean, you have to just barely dip into the atmosphere. And you have to make several passes, or else you're going to waste a lot of fuel. But yeah, the only way to bring it in now is you have to just lightly kiss that atmosphere. But I did do that. I came in, I brought it in for a landing, touchdown. mined, refueled. I was good to go. I had full fuel tanks. And that's when I discovered that on landing, the foot pads apparently sank in, and I had to really zoom in to see this. Mm-hmm. But it had broken off my engine bills.
Oh.
They were still held in place because they were pressed up. They were pressed between the fuel tanks and the ground.
Yeah.
But they had been dislodged just enough to where they weren't functional.
Wow.
So there's Voyager sitting on the surface of Eve with a full fuel tank.
But no way to use it.
And no way to use it. I was like, it's like Eve it's like a mastermind.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, Eve goes, yeah.
Just when you thought you were safe.
It's like, oh, you're going to bid resource gathering? Fine. I'll raise you sunken landing pads. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm still working on, I'm going to have to reconfigure something where the engine bells are higher off the ground now. Understand, this is the exact same ship that has been to the Mun, to Minmus, and to Duna. So it's not like this isn't a design that hasn't been tested before.
Yeah, it's a proven design.
So
against most things. I
was surprised that the foot pads sank in as much as they did. Mm-hmm. That's, as far as I know, that's new.
Is there something you can do to mitigate that? Like wider foot pads?
Stop trying to go to Eve?
Yeah.
That's about,
how hard did you land?
I landed very easily. I literally had 5 parachutes. I came in, I think I was less than 5 meters a second when I landed.
Actually, it probably begs the question, is how hard of a landing you have dictate how much you sink into the surface? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt that they would put something like that in without talking about it. Because otherwise I'd be trying to impale things into the surface turbine forever.
It's been so long since I've been to Eve. I can't remember if sinking into the surface was something that was...
You'd never mentioned it. That's the first time I ever heard it.
Yeah. And again, the reason I brought this up was, this is the same ship. I mean, I didn't sink in at the Mun. I didn't sink in at Minmus. I didn't sink in at Ike. Mm-hmm. But I sank in, the exact same ship sank in at Eve enough to dislodge the engine bells.
Yeah.
That's odd.
You didn't sink in on the Mun?
Uh-uh.
I mean, I guess they changed...
Well, let me rephrase. If I did, I didn't enough to dislodge the engine bells.
So I think it may be, like whenever you land, there's dust. Mm-hmm. Was there a lot of dust? Mm-mm. Okay, is the same amount or any?
I don't remember any, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, they may just have different surface density now.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how you could plan around that, though. Like, because I doubt... I don't know. I can't imagine, like, having more landing legs would, disperse the amount of pressure on each leg so you wouldn't sink as much. So, like, if you had 6 instead of 4, it would be easier. Or...
What I need to do is I need to raise the engine bells up. You know, I mean, they need to be, obviously there needs to be a little bit more wiggle room.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just wondering if there's anything you do to change the amount you would sink. I don't know.
Now that I can't tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to Eve anytime soon, so I don't want to know. But.
Well, the thing is I, that was not something I was anticipating.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, sinking in has never been an issue. As a matter of fact, I'll toss that out to the listenership. Has anybody gone to Eve and had a problem with sinking in? Is that something new? Or is that something that's always been there and I've just never noticed it? I'd be curious to get a response
I'd really like
on
to know about that.
Yeah.
Because that scares me.
What? It scares you?
Yeah. What else are they not telling us?
That's true. The secret Eve conspiracy theory. I mean, seriously, Eve is it is the monster of the game. No matter what you do, Eve figures out a way around it. You know? You could probably land like the most powerful, biggest ship on the planet.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I mean, seriously, you could design like the Eve Buster ship, and Eve would go, I laugh at your...
Yeah. It's like, oh, here's something new to rub in your face.
Eve has a surprisingly masculine voice, I've noticed. I laugh at your ha-ha-ha, I laugh at... Maybe that's what it is Eve is like, she's really angry. Uh-huh. Because she has like this really severely masculine voice, and it, I don't know. Maybe Eve is frustrated.
Does it scare you? Does it intimidate you?
Yeah.
Did you have a problem watching Mad Max?
You mean not like all the man boys that are, it's feminist. It's a feminist propaganda.
That's so stupid.
I know.
It's so stupid.
I know.
Or, okay.
You know what though? This is an aside, but when I run into stuff like that,
Darn right it is.
I actually see that as progress.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's progress when the man boys watch a movie like Mad Max and they whine that it's feminist propaganda. That tells me right there that we are making progress as a society.
Yeah.
Because when the quote unquote powerful start to whine that they're losing power, that to me is a sign of progress. Mm-hmm. So anyway, aside.
When any group that has had some sort of dominance or power starts to act like the groups that aren't. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like, okay, we're actually headed somewhere now.
If Mad Max Fury Road is feminist propaganda, then I am Charlize Theron. That's all I can say. That movie is not feminist propaganda. You have to be a severely scared little boy to walk into that movie and think that. So
it's a cool movie though. So
it's awesome movie. Love that movie.
Is that all you have for progress?
Let's see. I did the planet hopping back to Eve, happy landings. Yeah, that's my progress.
Yeah, that's everything for me.
First stage expended. Second stage. The mission briefing.
And that means your letters and tweets. And we're going to start out with a letter that I want to say this made my year. This letter.
Our year of Kerbalcasting.
Our year of Kerbalcasting. Because, Kerbalcasting is a lot of fun. I enjoy seeing my friend every week.
Yeah.
I enjoy playing the game. I enjoy the community that we've created. But it is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It is a labor of love. I mean, we're obviously not doing this to get rich. We're doing it because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
But to get a letter like this makes every bit of it worth it. I don't know. Did I send you this letter?
Yeah.
Had you seen it? Okay. This comes to us from Eric S. And it says, Biff and Nos, I'm sure you get your fair share of fanboy mail on a regular basis, and it must get difficult to wade through it at times. No, it's not. Praise is not hard to get through. Still, knowing this, I would be remiss if I didn't pass along a well-deserved thank you for producing your podcast. Recently, I was laid up in the hospital with some rather annoying heart problems. What could have been the worst 5 days of my life were instead tempered by you, Nos, Amy, and others who have participated in your podcast. I honestly think I would have gone crazy in there if I hadn't had your podcast to keep me company. It was an absolute blast to start early in the series and listen to all the episodes leading up till now. Talk about nostalgia. The game and the podcast have grown so much in that year of content. Trying not to be too awfully melodramatic, so thanks again, friends. Homer to your mobile, Eric S. That makes my year.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
The fact that we could help somebody in the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, that just right there. That makes it all worth it.
I feel so Patch Adams right now.
Do you really? Is that why you're wearing the red nose?
Yeah. So...
Are you at my cervix?
You'll hear people, like people that make content, whatever it is, like they write or they, do something. They'll hear that story about somebody that used whatever it was they made to get through a tough time, and they'll say it's like something like this makes it all worth it. And I never expected to have one of those.
Right.
I never expected that anything we would do would, be the thing that somebody uses to help them get through something. We had that letter. Well, it wasn't a letter to us. It was just an open letter to Kerbal Space Program, like last year, whenever we were early in the podcast about how it helped them with, thoughts about suicide and stuff, so it's weird to hear that the thing that we make every week, just goofing around, farting around in front of a bunch of mics, we made a thing that helped somebody out.
Yeah. Well, Natalie Merchant has a song called Wonder, and she says that when she has visited like children's cancer wards, she will see people have printed out the lyrics to that song and they've taped it on the wall next to their bed.
Yeah.
And I now have a little sense of what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's much more dramatic, but just the idea that we could help in some little way, I don't know. That warms my heart.
Yeah. I mean, we don't.
And Eric, thank you so much. I mean, you did not have to sit down and write that, but the fact that you did, I mean, that means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we really appreciate hearing that. Like, we're sorry that you had to be there in the first place.
Yeah.
And I hope you never have to be there again.
Right.
But it's, thank you.
Yeah. And it's also nice to know that, Kerbalcast didn't make you worse.
It's like, hey, here's part of the bill.
Yeah.
Because, I was doing okay, and then things got worse. They're like, what happened? I heard episode 1.
Well, it's like, you remember that old Steve Martin movie, The Jerk?
Yeah.
Where he creates the handy grab for the glasses, and it turns out that it makes people cross-eyed. It's like we do this podcast, and next thing you know, we've got this lawsuit against us.
Yeah.
You're bad for people's health. But anyway, Eric S., as Nos said, I hope that is the end of your health problems, and it really makes us feel good that we could help. And so thank you so much for writing in. Let's move on. What's our next letter?
That would be me, wouldn't it? This
That
one
would be
comes
you.
from the guy with the birds, which
Cheap.
yeah, it's the guy with the birds in the background, which is funny because it makes me think of the man with the dogs, which is a Dead Kennedy song. Anyway,
You would.
I'd like to add my own input on jet engines. If you have a turbojet or Rapier attached to a precooler, it will have a thrust of several hundred kilonewtons, even at subsonic speeds, making them essential for single stage to orbit spaceplanes. The guy with the birds.
Cheap. There was a YouTube video that we pointed out several episodes ago, and there is now a sequel to this. It's White Lightning HQ. Do you remember the video that we were talking about?
Yeah.
Where you remember it's
green. It's
yeah,
blue.
It's green. It's blue.
Oh, that means you're flipping.
Yeah. They have posted a sequel to it, and it is hilarious. And we're going to do a link to it. Kyle Sullivan, and I'll say his name because it's actually on their channel.
Yeah. So you can't hide.
These guys are hilarious.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Yeah. It amazes me how professional what they do is. I mean, it's obviously low budget, but I mean, just the acting quality.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And
Kyle is the guy that plays the mission controller. Mm-hmm. And I said this last time, but I'll say it again. The guy has this unbelievably dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
And his delivery is pitch perfect. I also want to give a shout out, and I don't know his name, but the guy that actually plays the Kerbal is very funny. I mean, the two of them work off of each other beautifully.
Yeah.
If the guy that plays the Kerbal was actually green, I would swear he is a Kerbal. Because he kind of looks like what a real life Kerbal.
It like kind of reminds me, and it's not any, like, we weren't using that as any influence. Like, it reminds me of like a Kerbal life.
Right.
It's just like this, he has this pleasant naivety, And
I also want to give a shout out to the guy that, I guess he's an engineer, but there's this one guy, he just leans in at these moments.
Yeah.
And he's the one who leans in and points out things like, yeah, there's still a ladder on the hatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the guy's got one or two lines, but even he is hilarious. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if you guys have not watched the White Lightning HQ, they have several videos. They're not all Kerbal, but they're all funny.
Yeah.
I'm going to post a link to the sequel. The sequel actually has a link on it to the one before. So if you didn't get to see the one before, watch the new one, watch the one before, and then go through some of their other ones because they are very funny. So, again, White Lightning HQ. Next letter, that is you, correct?
This one comes from J. Arthur, Kerbal Mining Guild, a.k.a. a different way to play career mode. Greetings, Biff and Nos. After my last email, I spent 6 more hours launching Kerbals all around Kerbin to populate the planet, which gave me an idea. Most games I play have an economy system. I tend to play them to be a trader, worker of some kind.
When he said that he was launching Kerbals to populate the planet and that gave him an idea, I was wondering if we could continue.
Yeah. I've played the X3 series extensively, and my goal was always to build the largest trade network possible. I would rarely, if ever, fight anyone unless I absolutely had to, and would devote 50 or more hours to building a complex space station to control an entire sector of space. Launching all those Kerbals around made me think about doing a career mode to exclusively ferry passengers around, which led me to thinking, what if I was a private space company for profit rather than for science? Thus the Kerbal Mining Guild was born. Since 1.0 added a stock mining system with cathane carbonite have existed for a while, and I'm starting a game where all I do is ferry passengers about and mine materials and sell them for cash. It is slow going at first, not focusing too much on science makes it hard to progress, but crew reports, temperature reading, and EVA reports add up over time. And taking strategies to increase the science I receive from contracts helps as well. I'll keep you guys up to date on how this goes, but so far I'm having a blast with it. Playing the game from a different perspective makes it like a whole new game. I'll be sure to include some screenshots once I finally get my Minecraft up and running. I'd also like to know what you guys think about playing the game this way. It's very different than anything I've heard on the podcast, although I'm only up to around episode 30 so far. Keep up the good work. Fly safe, but if you can't, fly dangerous.
I think tumbling with your single-stage orbit craft and then crashing qualifies as flying dangerously.
To answer the question, what do you think of playing the game that way? I mean, we've had, when we had the Shea challenges, some of them were things like repopulate or build, like ridiculous things and, do stuff like that, build skyscrapers. What we talk about a lot is doing whatever you want and, forget the haters, do what you want.
Yeah.
So you have free reign to do whatever you want. And so what do I think of that? I think it's really cool. So I played, and I'll always find a way to do this. I don't know. Like, first thing I thought when I read this.
Rollies.
No,
really?
Actually, a board game.
Okay.
There's one, and it's Twilight Imperium, and it's like minimum 6 hours to play. So it's like a 6 to 16-hour board game.
You've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody asked about it, and it's like really big. The one thing I don't like is the only way to win is to conquer this one planet, and everybody's fighting over it.
Right.
Well, I saw right away that I didn't care about that. I didn't really care about winning either.
Right.
Because there are so many people fighting for it, and it's just going to be this political intrigue fest, and I wasn't interested. The race of aliens that I played were these like lion kind of people. And there's trading in the game, like trading contracts and economy. And so I decided I didn't care about winning that planet. I wanted to be the richest person in the entire thing. So I spent the entire time setting up, trade agreements and making money.
Right.
I wasn't playing the way the game was supposed to play, but I was having a lot of fun, and like by the end of it, somebody conquered that planet, but I was like, I was so rich, I didn't care, I was like, you can have like big important planet, but I'm so rich, at any point I could have bought the planet off the guy, I was like, I'll give you straight cash for that planet. It's like, okay, whatever.
Sure, whatever.
So, whenever he was talking about, I'm trying to make it an economy game, we'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
And if you want to make it to where you build passenger planes and try to see how many Kerbals you can take from this continent to this continent, and eventually, like, you're just running a Kerbal airliner.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that sounds cool, do that thing,
Well, you just described the one ingredient to any game that I think is absolutely critical, and that is have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a game. If you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
Like, I haven't done it, and you can't do it in stock. You just can't.
Right.
If you could, I don't want to see how you do it. But, like, if I could build a train network, that would be so much fun. And, Max Maps actually brought it up. Somebody made a mod for trains, and was like, hey, do you want to implement this in the game? And they're like, no. It's space program, not train program.
Somebody, they sent me a link, because I had tweeted out when I saw the Mad Max movie. I tweeted out, hey, great movie. It's a great movie. And somebody sent me a YouTube clip. Somebody in Kerbal was doing Mad Max. They had these well-armed ground vehicles, and they were driving around targeting each other and launching missiles and blowing each other up.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think we've had anyone that's talked about just trying to go, like, make a economy trading, ferrying system. I mean, people have probably done that to do contracts, but not done it exclusively.
Right.
But I think it's awesome that you found, like, a thing that you really want to do.
I'm glad he did the shout out to X3 because those games are a lot of fun. The one I played for hours and hours and hours was Albion Prelude. The one downside to the X3 games is they have a very dynamic economy. And they have a stock market, and they've got all this stuff. And I set up this elaborate trade network. And I started playing the stock market, and I got filthy stinking rich. And the downside to all this, I actually for a minute had this thought, hey, I bet I could invest in the real stock market and get rich.
No.
And I actually looked into it, and I realized that, it's like you have to drop some major coin just to play the game.
Well, penny stocks.
The real life.
Penny stocks are the way to go.
Yeah.
I have so many emails saying it's a great idea.
Nos of Wall Street. No, seriously. I mean, I really did. I played that game, and I mean, I actually, for a brief glimmer of a moment, I actually thought I could play the stock market and get rich because I'm so good at it in the game.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's how they hook you. That was the whole ploy. E-Trade was the real backers behind getting that game made.
I don't know. Seriously, if you have any thoughts about playing the stock market, you should watch Wolf of Wall Street. That'll probably.
And don't focus on the guys who made it.
Yeah.
Focus on all the suckers.
Yeah, that's true. Just think Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
With no pants. Just think that.
Yeah, that's all you'll see.
One last comment. Thanks to the Austin Powers movies, I knew that J. Arthur was slang.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was slang for. So I looked it up.
A little too late because we already called him that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, we weren't trying to imply that that's. But I mean, because I was like, it's slang, and I looked it up, and I went, oh, that's what it means. Oops.
Yeah. But it stuck.
It's our little joke.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next letter comes to us from Simpeternity 87, and it says, "Hello, Biff and Nos. Since KSB and Curse have joined together to help house and distribute mods for the game, I've been hoping for a Curse client plugin like Minecraft got. This would make installing mods for KSB really easy and allow for mod packs to be created. I've used CCAN and really like how easy it is to install and even better to uninstall mods. But I would love to have the ability to keep a list of mods ready for me to download and update as required. This would also give everyone a chance to play the Kettlewell mode, Biff mode, and even nostalgic mode. Keep your eyes on the stars and fuels in your tank. Simpeternity. P.S. Nos, you've been doing well with pronouncing the name. Feel free to shorten it to Simp. Wasn't he one of the Three Stooges? Oh, that was Shemp, wasn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
I remember Shemp. Yeah, and he got replaced with Curly.
Yeah.
Your results may vary.
That that reminds me of the whole George Carlin thing about, words that contradict each other, like Jumbo Shrimp.
Yeah. So,
Jumbo Shrimp.
I think that would be a good feature.
Off track.
Yeah, well, I think it would be a cool feature to see, like click this to download all the mods that so-and-so uses, things like that. But it reminded me that talking about Curse, because we haven't talked about Curse in a long time.
I know.
Because now it's like they're doing their own thing. You know what we haven't had in a while on the podcast?
What?
Controversy.
Oh,
we haven't had any controversy. Because remember Curse? Like them moving to Curse was a really early one. That was like episode 4 or something. Mm-hmm. And people were sprouting opinions on it. And then we had mod statistics,
right,
which put us on the map.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like we were peddling that controversy.
I thought it was our sparkling personalities that put us on the map.
No.
So
we haven't had any Kerbal controversy lately.
So are you going to drum up some controversy?
I don't know. We're gonna. You know what? We're gonna peddle out a drawing to the first person to cause Kerbal controversy.
Okay.
We're not going to do that. Don't do that.
Now, I will say, since you brought up Curse.
Yeah.
One thing I am disappointed with Curse, and I don't know if anyone else has had this problem. When you try to search for a mod on Curse, if you don't get the name exactly right, it doesn't come up.
It doesn't keyword search. It just like straight up searches.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a library search.
Yeah, and which, it's kind of like, you've heard that joke about, if you don't know how to spell a word, look it up in the dictionary. Well, how can you look it up in the dictionary if you don't know how to spell a word? That's kind of how I feel about Curse, which is, if I don't know the exact name of the mod and I can't search for it,
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually gotten to where I Google search the mod just to figure out what it is so I can find it on Curse.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, no, I guess we did have a little bit of controversy with negative reactions to one of the big updates. You know, some people weren't crazy about parts testing.
Yeah.
And then we had one with, you know, whether the game was going to release, you know, come out of beta too early.
Yeah.
So never mind. We have a healthy dose of controversy. I wonder what's next.
Wow. It's like Madonna over here.
You know, I'm like a 24-hour news station, just like,
Yeah.
what's the next thing I can pump fear into? Let's just see what.
The next thing, Nos is going to start wearing, you're going to wear those silicone bras,
Yeah.
those pointy bras. You're going to go on a big erotica tour.
It lifts and is probably painful.
It lifts and separates. Which is, you know, that's not what you want with underwear either.
Next comes from Misha. Hey, Biff and Nos and potential guests. Just wanted to quickly comment on Fell Knight's question in podcast number 49 about payload bays and clipping. You have to turn angle snap off in order for parts to line up with the inside of the payload bay. Otherwise, they will try to align to the outside. Also, another tip for using them is to install the Sounding Rockets mod. It contains some structural pieces which fit perfectly in the inside of the payload bays and provide a center vertical truss to attach components into the bay. This is great for items that can be deployed, such as solar panels or the magnetometer boom.
Magnetometer
Boom. Cheers.
Just say Magneto. the Magneto boom.
The Magneto.
Is that what they say? Remember they say you're the bad guy?
Oh,
is that what
yeah.
they say?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Ian McKellen right now his internal antenna just turned on, and I must go across the ocean and kick his butt for doing a horrible impersonation of me. I love Ian McKellen. I mean, there is a handful of actors. Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Alan Rickman. There is a handful of actors that, I mean, it's like, you know, I
do
just,
no wrong.
Yeah, they can do no wrong. It's like, you know, there could be videos on YouTube of them like grinding up puppies, and I'd be going, "Hey, it's Ian McKellen."
Yeah, he's totally selling it though.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
That's the most believable real puppy grinding I've ever seen.
I love Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. Let's see. Next letter. This comes to us from Matt from Switzerland. Hey, Biff and Nos, congratulations to all of you on the first birthday of the wonderful podcast. I am eager to listen to your next show, as I'm sure you have prepared something to celebrate this occasion appropriately. Did we prepare anything?
No, and it's one of those things you talk about doing it so much you never actually do anything.
Right.
So we never actually did anything. You got married.
Yeah, I got married.
We should have done that as an episode.
You know what we could do?
What?
Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Okay, that was the big thing.
Okay, there we go. Not to say that we don't think it's special. We just couldn't think of anything to
Matt,
do.
I'm sorry. I know you were you were like eagerly anticipating something.
Yeah.
That was it.
You know,
was it.
We're on a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
So I mean,
a 5-year mission.
Yeah.
And we'll be canceled in 3.
In deep podcasting.
Our season 3 premiere is going to be Nos's brain. Spock's brain.
Yeah. No,
okay.
I know.
Okay.
The best
the reason I say that was until you met me, you had never seen Spock's brain.
No, I still haven't seen it, but I read a synopsis of it. I still remember that city. Like, that was like 2 or 3 moves ago.
Yeah.
You know, like, I had the papers, like a printout of the synopsis of that episode, like in my bathroom as a bathroom reader.
The synopsis that Nos is talking about, there's a website called Agony Booth that recaps really horrible like movies and TV shows, and their recap of Spock's brain is absolutely stinking hilarious. It is, and as they point out, I cannot believe I'm off on this tangent. As they point out, Spock's brain was the season 3 premiere episode. It wasn't one that they tried to hide in the season.
Yeah.
Somebody actually looked at Spock's brain and went, That's the episode we want to kick off season 3 with.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
It's time for Spock's Brain.
Yep. Brain and brain. What is brain? That's from the episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Apart from that, I do not have anything to add, and thus I wish both of you all the best, and am looking forward to listening to many more episodes of Kerbalcast. After this one, probably not. Kind regards, Matt from Switzerland. Next letter, Nos has it.
Cargo bays and service
Oops.
bays.
What did we just
We
have?
got a mic hit.
We got a mic hit.
This comes from Wesley C. Biff, I hate to take you to task. Not really, I love doing that. But I actually laughed out loud when you said, I know there are cargo bays, but I'd like a service bay large enough to dock a ship in. There are service bays large enough to dock a ship in. They're called cargo bays. You said the equivalent of, I know my car has a trunk, but I really wish the glove box was big enough to fit all my groceries. Less jokingly, the concept of the service bay is specifically to hold all of the small doodads we used to stick to the sides of our rockets. They're not designed to hold ships on purpose. Loving the show, asides and all.
Wesley C.
Wesley C.
I was not clear, which I know was a huge shock because I'm rarely clear about anything. What I was trying to say was I wish that they had round cargo bays.
Yeah.
The cargo bays that they have are rectangular, and they are designed for shuttles.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they made round cargo bays because what I'm doing, I'm using the Apollo model right now with landing craft, which is it resides behind the command and service module. I get into orbit, I separate, spin around, dock with the lander, and then pull it off of the earlier stage.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like is to actually have a cargo bay built into the rocket with the lander in it. And that's what I was trying to say. I wish there were cargo bays that were circular, not rectangular, because you can put them on a rocket, but I mean, it looks exactly like what it is, which is it's a rocket with a big shuttle piece right in the middle of it.
So,
I mean, it looks like something they would drive in Mad Max.
I know this is...
See, there was a Mad Max
Yeah,
reference.
we got to just sprinkle them like croutons all over this podcast.
That's right.
So,
This
this is going to feel dumb.
Why?
But those cargo bays,
Yes.
what do you put in them?
Well, landing stuff.
Like
Okay, like in real life,
yeah,
the
I
shuttle,
know. Well, you can put all sorts of stuff in them in real life, but
they
like
put satellites in them, and like you can put landing
But
craft.
like, what would I have one? Like, I have one in career mode. What do I do with the thing? Like, I tried to stuff a Kerbal in there, but you can't.
Oh, you're talking about the small service bays.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, we're talking two different things.
Okay, sorry, the service bay. What do I do with that thing?
I've kind of had the same, because they're not, I mean, to me, they're not big enough. What I have done with them, and I only did this when I was in science mode,
No.
I put my science equipment in the service bay. Because
like you
what
put
I
a Science
used to,
Junior inside of it, or like a
well, not the
mystery goo or something.
Like I would put a mystery goo canister in there, and I would put like the seismometer.
So
and
instead of
like,
attaching it to the side of the rocket, it's now in this little.
Well, because of the aerodynamics, anything that you put on the side of the rocket,
it's going to mess it up. Okay.
Has a good chance of getting torn up either on the way up or the way down.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was in science mode. I was using the service bay as a way of putting my instruments in there. Now, because of the way it's configured, it's actually kind of hard to get things in there sometimes.
Okay.
Because you're kind of coming at it from an angle. I wish that they had big service bays, like big enough to fit a lander.
Yeah.
To me, that would be so cool. You know how I talked about how shuttles with the space planes, it's like the ratio of how useful they are and how pretty they look seem to be inversely proportional. That's kind of what it was. The hybrid that I built had a giant shuttle bay in it, and it had a big lander in it. And, it was like, it was great that I could take that up and launch it, but it was kind of like, well, there's not much else I can do. Whereas like with Voyager, for example, I mean, that is a fully functional ship that can go from planet to planet and refuel itself and all kinds of stuff. The shuttle bay, the shuttle cargo bays are such that you can't fit, for example, like an automated lander with a drill and everything because they're not wide enough to accommodate all of that stuff. You see?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have a cargo bay on the rocket that was big enough to either have like an automated lander or a manned lander or something. Long story short, I wish they made round cargo bays.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. Because, again, if you put a shuttle cargo bay on a rocket, it looks like a shuttle cargo bay on a rocket.
Yeah.
Taint purdy. You're laughing at me. Guess what? That's not the first time.
Yeah.
Jay Arthur joins us again.
He's already back.
He's back. And he says he's helping Ascalon transcribe episodes of Kerbalcast. And he says, do you guys realize how much you talk over one another? I knew you did,
yes.
But I never realized how much.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Until I tried
we talk over each other there a lot.
Until I tried to separate the conversations for subtitles. I have to give Ascalon a lot of credit.
Oh, God.
They are literally transcribing episodes of Kerbalcast.
I feel kind of awful.
Why?
Because they have to listen to us and write down everything we say. So like every tangent, it's like them just putting in like overtime work for some.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, now do this pointless thing. It's like if we're the CEOs of the company, like, hey, go wash my car. You know, it's like, but that's not really in the job description for what I'm here for. Go wash my car.
Sure it is.
Go wash my car.
Go wash my car. You want a paycheck? Go wash my car. Well, it does make you realize how inane some of our conversations are.
Yeah.
The fact that some poor soul is having to sit there and transcribe. It's like every time Biff opens his mouth, a transcriber groans.
Yeah. It's like,
oh no.
I just imagine whenever it hits the point, you know, they're going to say like anything, you know, that's worthwhile, they're going to type. And then whenever they start hearing something pointless, they just write like in parentheses,
blah,
Biff
blah.
talks pointlessly for 3 minutes.
They'll have like a what do you call it? A macro. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll have a macro and it'll just be, Biff blah, Biff blah, Biff blah. Do you realize how meta this is, that somebody is going to transcribe us talking about
being transcribed?
There is somebody right now transcribing us talking about them transcribing us.
Yeah. And they're it just keeps going.
The universe collapses. Please save me. Don't you have another one?
From HRD.
No.
What?
Buglet Snuglet.
But he doesn't say that's what he is.
Yeah, but
you just revealed his real name.
His real name is Buglet Snuglet.
Yes.
Mama didn't love me.
The parents were creative. From Buglet Snuglet.
Well, that's what he is on Twitter.
Dear Biff and Nos, last week you guys were talking about having a planet hopper spaceship that is completely self-sustaining. Since listening to your podcast, I've come up with an idea.
To stop listening to your podcast.
So the ship is composed of a number of modules that would need to be collected together in low Kerbal orbit before the ship is complete. 1. Command module, what it says on the tin. This would be a simple module that has docking ports, a big fuel tank, space for 3 or 4 crew members, and a powerful engine. This module would never land on a planet, but instead remain in low orbit. 2. Mining module, a small unmanned, space for 1 crew, ship that would detach from the command module while in orbit of a planetary body, land on the surface, collect fuel resources, and return to the ship. This would need to be very efficient, lightweight ship capable of carrying much more fuel than it needs to return to the command ship. 3. Satellite module. In all fairness, this would simply be a part of the command module. However, if it were a separate module, that would be a simple unmanned satellite that detaches from the command module, achieves the polar orbit of the planetary body, and scans for resources before returning to the ship. 4. Anything else. If your ship is efficient enough that you could add a science module or a lander module for data collection on the surface, etc. I hope you like my idea and love the show. From HRD.
Buglet Snuglet. It says Buglet Snuglet right there.
I know, but it also
says HRD.
Okay.
Well, see, HRD gives away the real name more than Buglet Snuglet.
Yeah. So
I
think the ship idea is actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
you know,
I do too.
basically you have I don't know. It's like a roaming. I mean, it's like a colony ship sort of thing. You know,
in a sense, that's what I was talking about before with Voyager when I said that, the first incarnation of it was three different pieces, and then it turned into 2, and then it turned into 1. I mean, he just described kind of in essence what the first incarnation of Voyager was.
Now, if you could do what some of those ships are in, like a lot of sci-fi movies where it's like it has the big like centrifuge thing to simulate gravity.
Honestly, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. If like you had that full, it's basically like a roaming space station.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
This doing the Planet Hopper ship, that really kind of appeals to my worst instincts, because you almost, when you're doing that, when you're not doing single missions anymore, when you're doing like, ongoing missions to the final frontier,
like
and,
legacy missions,
explore strange new worlds, seek out new life, and girls in go-go boots. That's where you start wanting to create stories. And so you're playing the game and it's like, prepare to leave orbit, Captain, engage. And, and it's like, like you're doing voices and you're coming up with stories, and, it's like you're like talking to yourself, and then people look in and go, something's seriously wrong with him, which actually people have said about me my whole life. So.
Par for the course.
But, that's one other thing I would say. He's talking about the scanning. I won't classify this as a gripe necessarily, but I do wish that the scanner scanned whatever you were over.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're in an equatorial orbit and you engage your scanner, it says, got to be in a polar orbit. And it's like, just scan what I'm over.
I just want to scan what I want to scan.
Don't make me get into a polar orbit just to scan. I did do...
I know it's the most efficient, but I'm just looking to do this thing.
Voyager is designed to be a completely self-sustaining ship. So it has its own scanner built in and the whole bit. Mm-hmm. And when I got to Ike, and, realized that the only way I was going to be able to scan was to do a polar orbit, that's when I discovered there was one piece missing from the ship. Because I got into a polar orbit and I started to scan and it said, nope, you don't have an antenna, so I can't scan.
Yeah.
I was like, dadgummit. It's like, this is like the 5th or 6th voyage of Voyager, and now I discover I don't have a stinking antenna. But the scanner, the thing I've noticed about the scanner is if you land in an ore-rich area, the difference between landing in an ore-rich area and a, normal ore area, I guess, lack of a better expression. I mean, you can pretty much land anywhere and collect ore. The difference is it going to take you a couple of days to collect the ore, or is it going to take you a couple of months? Yeah. So the scan is not 100% necessary. It makes it more efficient. Mm-hmm. So anyway. But yes, I wish I had the ability to scan directly. Like ScanSat will scan whatever you're over. You remember I told you that I initially tried to use ScanSat Equatorial. It'll scan what you're over. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to scan the whole thing, you need to be in a polar orbit. But the scanner, the ore scanner in the game, as is, forces you to be in a polar orbit, or it won't do it. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know if that's a gripe or just a comment. One or the other. Let's see. We have. I have the next letter. Yeah. This is from Kerbal Kieran. Hello, Biff and Nos. It's been a while since I last wrote in. I have 2 major projects going on in the game. The first one is quite simple. Go to the Mun, or Moon, or Mun. Let's just say the object that orbits closest to Kerbin. This project got kicked into high gear only a few days ago when I was showing my friends how to play. I was using the Kerbal X rocket so I could show him a rocket that could actually leave the ground. So I took off and showed him all the basics and how to F5 for safety. We have to say it the correct way. Yeah. F5 for safety. I was showing him how spinning your ship affects the electric charge, must be a bug, when I noticed how close I was to the Mun. Quick aside, by the way, do you remember I talked about coming into Eve? Mm-hmm. And, how the thing points nose first? Yeah. If you corkscrew, if you start to spin like left to right or right to left, that actually mitigates some of the heating, I've discovered.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, if you spin, it actually seems to disperse a little bit of the heat. I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if that was just my perception or if that's actually true, but it seemed to help. I actually did kind of a quote unquote barbecue roll coming into Eve, and it seemed to help. So anyway, Let's see. Back to the letter. He said he noticed how close he was to the mun. I told him to move over and let a... I love it. I told him to move over and let a professional handle this situation. Stand back. The professional is here. I checked map view and realized that if I orbit... let's see. If I... we're missing a word here. I realized that I'm assuming if I change my orbit a little bit, I could possibly get a mun encounter. I fired the Poodle engine on the ship and went into map view to check how high my orbit needed to be. This was a first for me, so I started randomly placing maneuver nodes all over the mun. I was a beginner at orbital maneuvers. The mental picture I'm getting of this is hilarious.
Yeah.
I managed eventually to get myself close enough to the mun to get a good view, but not anywhere near an encounter. But the spirit of evil in Kerbal made the parachutes on the ship fail to open during our landing stage. Wow, what a waste of effort. I disagree. You learn from stuff like this, so it's technically not a waste. I looked at my friend and asked, so, how do you like it? Now that I've totally bombed, how do you like it? Once again, I have doomed a squad of another $30 due to my poor skills. I don't know. If you can't watch the game and see that and not think that's fun, you probably wouldn't have enjoyed it in the first place.
Yeah, they probably would have played it for a little bit.
Because, I mean, seriously, he's describing the spirit of the game.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I love the whole idea of doing the random maneuver nodes all over the place. Have you found that sometimes you cannot create maneuver nodes?
Yes.
Like when you create an encounter, sometimes you can't, because you know you have a blue line that leads you up to the encounter, and then you have like a purple line that shows you what your orbit's going to be after the encounter. Yeah. Sometimes those two get so close together that when you try to do a maneuver, you get a purple maneuver, not a blue maneuver.
Yeah, I've had that a lot.
Yeah. Once in a while, I'll get it to where it just won't do a maneuver at all. And that's rare, but it happens. In spite of all this, I showed him my other project. The project, I have to admit, is really, really fun. I am making the abandoned airfield not so abandoned. No, really, I'm landing many planes there to be taken off from later. Now, you may say, well then, smart guy, how are you going to take off the planes from the island when we are on the mainland? Well, the answer to that is the tracking station. You can fly planes by going into the station, selecting the plane, then flying it. When I first thought of this idea, I thought it was crazy. I realized that it was possible. Another thing I'm thinking about adding to the base is the function to actually build planes using docking ports. I'll include a picture to show how that would work. I don't see a picture. Okay. I would be open to any advice or ideas on the two projects I'm working on. Thank you for a wonderful podcast and for your time. May your explosions be bright or your launches go right. I like that. Kerbal Kieran. P.S. Would you have had to... Oh, okay. Yeah, he says, do you have to buy Kerbal on Steam to watch people?
Not to watch people.
Yeah. My understanding is you can watch anybody play anything on Steam as long as you have an account.
Now, in order to have people watch you, you're going to have to play it on Steam.
Right.
Or you could add a non-Steam game and probably... I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well, I was on the other day.
There's also the whole Mac thing. So if you have a Mac, you're just out of luck right now.
Now, Mac can watch, because Amy has watched me before.
Oh, okay. But you can't have people watch you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Amy she asked me to show her how to do Rendezvous, and she actually watched me. While she was, if I remember right, I think she said she was making mac and cheese and watching me. So. Yeah. Wow. But as long as you've got a Steam account, you can. My understanding is you can watch anybody play anything. I was on in a group the other night, and North Star said, he says, I got this game called Democracy 3, I think it was called, and he said, hey, everyone come watch. And, I didn't have that game installed, but we sat there and watched him play it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my understanding. Let's see. Next. Oh, I love it. Next letter is yours, and the title is The F Word.
From Jim. Hi, Bifnos. I'm more of an amateur, even though I've had the game for a couple of years. School, work, family, working on the house, and life in general seems to get in the way. I was playing vanilla 1.0.0.830 just now and had to send an email about what just happened. I was attempting to complete 2 contracts by testing the Weasley jet engine and observing an area above Kerbin. This was my first ever foray into making a plane, and it wasn't too hard to build and fly, but getting to 14 kilometers while going at least 200 meters per second was rather frustrating. After 4 reverts to assembly, I completed the contracts and then came around to the ever-dreaded landing. I had parachutes just in case, but attempting a landing anyway. I was coming into the flatlands around KSC, and my nerves were on edge. I was constantly checking my altitude, speed, and mashing the keys like Jebediah's life depended on it, because it did. The wheels touched down, I cut the engine, and hit the brakes. Success! I was a few kilometers away from the KSC and thought, why not just get closer before recovering the vehicle? Here's why. I was going way too fast, started turning, and then everything went kerbalistic. I started yelling at the top of my lungs, F5! 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 That's right, I forgot to save, and Jeb paid the price. He will be missed. This is my new curse word that I will use from now on. I don't care what kind of looks I get. Jim. P.S. Love the show. It is the perfect blend of entertainment and education. Keep up the good work.
You know, that would be a cool curse word.
Yeah. Oh,
Can you imagine that?
F5.
Like you're at the grocery store and you drop your ice cream.
Yeah, and you're like,
F5.
F5.
F5. Oh, go F5 yourself.
Yeah.
Next letter. Oh, yeah, there's a lot, and especially when we get to the tweets, there'll be a lot of talk about this. This comes to us from Pillbox. Hey, guys. Just wanted to say thank you so much for mentioning The Martian. Sum up the book. I have just finished reading the Wheel of Time series after a long 20 years. Have you seen the Wheel of Time series?
There's so many books.
Oh, my God.
I started reading the first one, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Not because I thought it was bad, because I was like, I know how much I'm going to have to read all these, and I don't want to do it.
Didn't the author of that actually die?
Yeah, somebody else finished
before
it.
he finished? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Which is what's going to happen to Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh, yeah, Game of Thrones.
Totally.
Yeah, every time I look at George R.R. Martin, it's like, dude, go to a gym.
Yeah, do something. Live longer.
Please, just finish the books and then eat pizza.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Just finished Wheel of Time. Yeah, 20 years sounds about right. And I was looking to read some science fiction instead of fantasy. Was considering reading Rendezvous with Rama, again, Arthur C. Clarke, but when you mentioned The Martian and started talking about it, I thought I'd give it a go. I actually got the audiobook as I can listen to it while I'm at work doing boring stuff, and I am loving it. And I just found out the movie's going to be released at the end of the year. Anyway, thanks again, guys. Pillbox. The Martian is a very good book. And since so much of it is first person, I would imagine audiobook would be great because, I mean, I could imagine somebody, I mean, it's written in almost diary form.
Yeah.
So I can imagine somebody actually speaking the book to you.
Yeah.
You really need to read The Martian.
I'll get around to it. I finished Old Man's War.
Did you? What'd you think?
It was good. It was
a great book.
just a very fun book.
Yeah.
You know, the entire time was just fun.
If you'll go to his website, John Scalzi, he has some very interesting commentary on all kinds of issues. He's a very thoughtful individual.
Yeah.
And I enjoy. Amy, and we'll get to this in a little bit here. Amy Kay just finished The Martian. We have an unofficial Kerbalcast book club.
Yeah, a lot of books circulating in that.
Yeah.
Wait, half the books that I would recommend are not science fiction at all, and the other half are science fiction, but they're terrible.
I just did the mic. I did since since episode 49. I have read 3 books, and this should tell you how bizarre my reading tastes are. I read a book about. Are you ready for this? I read a book called The Man with the Golden Touch.
Yeah.
It's the history of the James Bond movies.
Oh, okay.
I followed it with a book called Deadwake, which was about the Lusitania sinking, which is 100 years ago this month.
Yeah.
We were recording this May 2015. And then I followed it by rereading The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. Have you read that?
I think so.
That's such a good
I know
book.
I have it. It's on my shelf. I have a lot of Vonnegut on my shelf. I bought it faster than I was reading it.
Okay.
So some of them I've read, and I'm like, I need to go back and read that one. I don't know if I finished it. You know.
I think if my recollection is correct, I think I read that one when I was either a teenager or a young adult.
Yeah.
So it's been a couple of decades since I've read it since. And I was amazed. There are levels to that book that I never was aware of until now.
Yeah.
I think as a teenager, I read it more almost as straight sci-fi with kind of that Vonnegut sense of humor.
Yeah.
Now I read it and I see multiple layers of meaning. If anyone who's interested in the Kerbalcast book club, I recommend Sirens of Titan by Vonnegut.
Like all my sci-fi before this was like Warhammer novels, which like Warhammer 40,000 novels, which they're fun, but it is seriously like the dime romance novels of science fiction. It's like and then on his throne of skulls he shot shot his explosive machine gun into the foray of orcs, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is awesome, but I'm not going to tell people I'm doing this.
I love that. Well, it's I used to love to read Star Trek books.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of them are extremely well written.
Like Star Trek versus X-Men.
Yeah.
It's a real book.
I'm still waiting for the day when Picard meets Professor X.
Yeah. I just want you to know that Worf and Wolverine hit it off.
Well, I would imagine.
But it sucks so bad.
Because what are you doing there, bub?
And you're like, how do they explain it?
I do not like baths.
Yeah. They're like, how do you explain Star Trek and X-Men intertwining? Q.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Q is the answer to everything.
Like, okay. It's like the Infinity Gauntlet. Oh, well, anything can happen. Yeah. When you have the reality gem, it's like, oh, we're good.
Yeah. Well, it's like the finale to Battlestar. God did it.
Yeah.
It's like everything is possible with Q.
So you get anything.
Do you want to go on to the next letter?
Yes, this comes from Freetoss. Beef and nos.
Oh, can I say something very quickly?
Oh, I did my Freetoss impression. You just ignored it. Go ahead.
Well, do your Freetoss impression.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to praise him on Twitter last week or week before. Somebody had a question, and it was related to space planes. And Freetoss did several responses to the guy. I mean, they had a whole dialogue going on, and it took place over the space of several hours. But I thought that was so nice of him to jump in and help somebody and spend as much time on Twitter as he did helping somebody with a problem. Anyway, I just wanted to say, Freetoss, thank you so much for doing that. That was very nice of you.
Now to Freetoss's
Now
letter.
do your impression.
Biff and nos.
Is he English?
Oh wait, no, that wasn't him. Who was it that wrote in the letters where he said it like that?
Who?
I don't remember.
Oh,
anyway,
are you talking about Thomas Eccles?
No, this is bad.
This is really bad. No, Amy.
No, it wasn't Amy.
Biff and Nos.
I feel awful. Like
Why?
we have all these
Why
fans and they like us, and I can't remember what are their names right now.
Hello, Biff and Nos.
This is what fame does to you. Biff and Nos, everything is finally ready. I've been playing around in sandbox mode ever since 1.0 came out, as well as a few brief forays into career mode to familiarize myself with all the changes in the update, so I would know what I was talking about for flight fundamentals. Like many others, I've had a list of mods I've been waiting on to start my 1.0 career, and it's finally here! It may or may not be as extreme as Kettlewell mode, but here are the official rules for Freetoss mode career. Use the following mods: Ferrum Aerospace, Deadly Reentry, Remote Tech, Chaos, Kerbal Attachment System, ScanSat, Diem's Magic Orbital Science, Universal Storage, Kerbal Engineer Redux, and Kerbal Alarm Clock. Plus any other visual audio beautification mods as desired. Do it to taste. In addition, all probe-controlled ships, anything without a Kerbal able to provide control, may only be controlled via Chaos inputs and Remote Tech signal delay. Full programs must be written and used as much as possible. Command window inputs are emergency only. Quick saves, quick loads, and flight reverting are all disabled. Kerbal permadeath is enabled. Individual part research costs are enabled, and the goal of the space program is to return at least one surface sample from every celestial body, including even Tylo, as quickly and fewest total number of days as possible. I might be crazy, but hopefully it will provide a fun and challenging game. I'll be sure to keep you guys posted as to my progress, or how quickly I get fired for exploding too much and running out of money. Freetoss.
I think your thing... Is it Andy M?
It was Andy M.
Okay.
Yeah. Freetoss is Biff and Nos. Let's see if it's right.
Yeah, this is what Freetoss sounds like. And this is, by the way, this is Freetoss Flight Fundamentals.
Greetings, Kerbonauts. Freetoss here with episode 6 of Freetoss Flight Fundamentals. Last week, I gave you guys tips on building a single stage to orbit spaceplane. They can be tricky to build and fly, so don't give up if you haven't had much success. This week, I'll be focusing on how to teach you to fly an SSTO. Specifically, a craft that I've built for you guys that, hopefully, Biff put a link to on the podcast's webpage. Or you can head to kerbalx.com and search for Freetoss as a user to find all of my craft files. The one you want is the Kerbalcast SSTO. When I designed this spaceplane, I had 3 goals in mind. First, I wanted it to be as easy to fly as possible, while still teaching you guys good piloting habits. Second, I wanted it to be useful, so I've included a docking port, monopropellant, and RCS thrusters so that you can dock with it. Alternatively, you can take out the docking port and put in a cargo bay in the same place to carry a small satellite to orbit. Lastly, I've gotten a few Twitter requests to keep it low-tech, so the plane doesn't use rapiers, shock cone air intakes, or any other part that is farther down the tech tree than the turbojet engine. Also, it uses only stock parts and is designed for use with stock aerodynamics and stock thermodynamics. Put the craft on the runway, turn on SAS, throttle to 100%, and hit the spacebar. You'll start going down the runway. Soon, the plane will take off itself. No input required. The front landing gear is slightly taller than the rear gear, giving you a positive angle of attack on the runway, generating lift, and getting you off the ground. Once airborne, retract the wheels and pull the nose up to 20 degrees above the horizon, due east. You'll quickly gain speed near Mach 1. Then start to lose it. It's okay though. As you climb, the plane will push faster and faster, passing the magic 400 meters per second, and then you'll gain lots and lots of speed. Around 13.5 kilometers of altitude, your apoapsis should be about 20 kilometers. Switch SAS from stability to prograde mode to allow your nose to start to fall slowly. You should be seeing lots of flame effects as you go about Mach 2.5. Don't worry, you shouldn't have any heat issues. At about 27 kilometers of altitude, the thrusts on the turbojets will die, and you'll begin to slow down. Hit Action Group 1 to shut off the turbojets and activate the swivel rocket engines. At the same time, switch SAS back to stability mode and pull back up from around 10 degrees to 20 degrees above the horizon to pull up and out of the atmosphere. By 35 kilometers of altitude, your apoapse should be passing 50 kilometers. Switch SAS back to prograde mode to pick up lots of horizontal velocity. From here, fly it to orbit like any other rocket. I designed it to be able to circularize at about 100 kilometers with a few hundred delta V left over. Once in space, you can hit Action Group 2 to extend the solar panels and antenna. When you're ready to land, time warp until you're at the very western edge of the desert. Burn retrograde until your orbit hits Kerbin in the ocean to the east of the Space Center. About 3/4 of the way to the peninsula east of KSC is about right. Performing this maneuver from a 100-kilometer circular orbit should leave you with about 100 delta V left. When you hit the atmosphere, pull the nose up to 30 degrees above the horizon. Keep the nose up as you descend, since the drag will slow you down. You may also need to steer towards either the north or south to make sure that you're aiming for the runway. It may take some practice, but you should slow down below a kilometer per second above the mountains to the west of the runway and about 30 kilometers up. From here, drop the nose and go into a dive towards the western edge of the runway. You shouldn't need to light your engines, rocket or jet, as you glide in to land. If you're going too fast, you can hit Action Group 3 to deploy flaps to help slow you down. However, they're not balanced very well, so your nose may drop. I'd recommend not having your flaps deployed during final approach, since it will make flaring the nose to land more difficult. When you touch down, deploy the flaps and hit the brakes. You should be able to touch down nice and slowly with some practice. Then you can take the spaceplane back to the hangar and take a look at how it's constructed. Mess around with the wings, fuel balance, wheel placement, ascent and descent profiles. Hopefully you can use my example and the example flight profile to make new SSTOs on your own. That's it for this week. If you have any questions, you can feel free to send me a message on Steam or tweet to me at Freetoss7. I'll talk to you again next week about the updated versions of Ferrum Aerospace and Deadly Reentry and what they mean for your aircraft. Homer to your mobile.
All right, thank you, Freetoss. I'm glad he's going to do that because from what I've heard, Deadly Reentry and Ferrum Aerospace, I thought that they might actually become irrelevant. It looks like it looks like they've actually taken stock and one-upped them again.
Yeah.
So what are you laughing at?
It was Andy M.
Oh, you still going on
I was
about that?
thinking about Andy M. He's like, Biff and Nos. And I always loved that. And then Freetoss has been doing his segment for like weeks now.
Yeah.
And like, I forget, greetings, Kerbanauts.
You're right.
Like, I was just, I don't know why I was thinking about Andy M. I guess I miss him. Right in.
For the life of me, I couldn't figure out what you were doing because I wanted to praise him for doing the thing on Twitter. So, and you went, well, you interrupted my impersonation of Freetoss, and I'm thinking,
what impersonation of Freetoss? And then then it was Andy M.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to both of you. I'm sorry to everybody.
You know what it is?
I like to issue a public
We haven't
apology.
heard from Andy in a couple episodes.
Yeah, and so I just missed him so much.
You've got him confused.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Freetoss.
It's that late night partying.
Yeah, it's that late night partying.
You know what it was? After the wedding at the dog park, we had a week-long reception.
Yeah, it was nuts.
You're just now coming down off all the champagne.
Yeah, it's like, my head's just swimming.
Because Biff is a party animal.
So I want to give my apologies to Freetoss for thinking he was Andy M. And I want to give my apologies to Andy M. because that probably wasn't even a good impression.
Do you know what I want? Do you know what I want? I want Andy to send us an audio letter now in which he goes, and now my impersonation of Nos. Hey, what time is it?
It's time for the tweets.
Time for the tweets.
Tweets. Haywood Floyd, Biff's singing was great. You guys should do an episode as a musical. Haywood,
It's Kerbalcast. It's Kerbalcast. I am your LMP. And with me, to the side of me, is my CMP, Nostromo.
Haywood Floyd again.
Maybe we should never do that.
Yeah, Haywood Floyd again. Here's another weird thought. Kerbalcast should have done Beginner's Minute with Max Maps.
That is such a good idea. I wish we'd have done that.
Yeah, just like, you got 1 minute, introduce us to the game.
Although, I couldn't have messed with him.
Yeah.
And I know you're still traumatized.
I don't know if we'd still have a podcast. You'd find a way to shut us down.
Yeah.
Greenish Hue, reading A Man on the Moon by Andrew Chaikin. Listening, The Race for Space by Public Service Broadcasting.
Good album.
Blaming, podcast, Kerbalcast. Thanks, though, for all the great recommendations. I butchered that tweet. Anyway, Midden my first 1-point asteroid mission was, I found out that the atomic engine only uses liquid fuel. Dead weight.
Yeah.
But he didn't know it runs on dreams.
It runs on dreams?
Yeah. Freetoss Deadly Reentry has been updated for 1.0. Parts now have skin and interior temperatures affecting heat transfer. What he doesn't know is someone out there is using all the skin to make a wonderful couch. Alex Boyd, so how do you two, Biff and Nos, know each other anyway?
Video game store.
Well, as you know, that we already addressed that. But hey, we answered it just in time for the podcast. Andrew Mason, my karaoke song is Silence is Golden. At least that's what I was told last time I did it.
I hope he's talking about the Garbage song. I love Garbage. Is one of my favorite groups. I love Shirley Manson. Just rocks. She rocks the house.
Thomas Sturm, roleplay living space for Kerbals. 1 week mission time and up to ×2, 4 weeks and up to ×4. I call it Union Rules. Ascalon, looking for more volunteers to help with transcribing episodes of Kerbalcast for subtitles aimed for deaf and hearing impaired fans. We'd like to issue our apologies because you're going to have to do that, but we appreciate anyone who does. Blue K, Kerbalcast, congratulations on 1 year. Hey,
thank you.
Congratulations on you for lasting that long. Amy K, have you ever seen the Dr. Horrible prequel, Horrible Turn? It's really good and has more songs to get in your head.
It is a fan-made. It's on YouTube. It's a fan-made prequel to Dr. Horrible. I watched the first episode and I walked around the rest of the day singing about Australia. She's not kidding about songs in your head. It's actually very well done.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm going to make a note to myself. Include link to Horrible Turn.
Do it. Simperternity 87. Valentina, first Kerbal on the Mun. Had enough fuel, so made an impromptu landing instead of a flyby. If you can make a stop, we've been missing you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now that there's Valentina and Jeb, are you more conscious of who your crew?
You want to be an equal opportunity Kerbal flyer?
I never thought before, until they introduced Valentina, I never thought about who my crew was.
Yeah.
But now it's like,
You want to be fair.
well, it's I don't know if it's a fair thing, but it's like if Jeb and crew goes to Duna and back, then the next time I send out a ship, I automatically go Valentina and a different crew.
Which is good in career mode because it keeps all of your Kerbal knots experienced.
Yeah.
In Sandbox, it's all personal preference, but I like to keep an even, breadth and depth of experience on all of them, because if I lose my most experienced one, it's kind of like in Pokemon or any RPG or anything. Like, you want to have your level distribution even, because if you lose your star, then it's like, okay, well, we're done. That
was well done of Squad to add Valentina, because I am now more conscious of, who's going to be my first Kerbal on the moon, who's going to be my first Kerbal to Eve.
It's not just because it's female or anything. It's because now there are different character models, so it adds more distinction. It's like if they all had different little like eye colors or top hats or something. It's like, oh, they're all different, so I now care about them individually. It's more than just a name.
I didn't realize how much that would kind of fundamentally change the game as well. But when you were playing the game and the only prime pilot was Jeb, think about it. I mean, he was the only prime pilot. Now that you have two, you're more conscious of your crews.
Yeah,
or at least that's been my experience.
His name was Bob Kerman.
Hey, we could do.
Was Bob Kerman.
His name was Bob Kerman.
Metalman 333. I just watched a Kerbal Space Program stream for over 10 hours and even listened to a Kerbalcast. This day was a good one. Rinzoin, guess what? I have the mod Nas has been waiting for. Fart sounds every time you fire your RCS. Watch me on Steam and see. I'm going to have to check that out. Kadavi 1202. I started a career game for 1.02, and in 2 weeks I've rescued over 30 Kerbals. How can there be so many? My OCD. HTYM.
Homer to your mobile.
Homer to your mobile. Okay.
I have a question about Kadavi 1202.
Yes.
And he's going to have to be the one to answer this. Is 1202 because of Apollo 11, the 1201 and the 1202 alarms?
I don't know.
Remember the radar overloading?
Maybe that's what time it was whenever they made that username.
That's true. It was 1202.
It was 1202. Terra Fermi. Seriously, clouds are probably one thing that I really think should have made it in the actual KSP 1.0 release. Amy K. Again, just finished The Martian. This is the best sci-fi book I've ever read. Movie in November. Since you're into impressions... No, I'm not.
Your Amy K. impersonation.
I've embarrassed myself enough. She comes on the show. I have to answer for my crimes if I ever see her.
Just finished The Martian.
Matthias Strubel.
This is the best sci-fi book I've read. Movie in November.
Matthias Strubel. Kerbalcast, what is your guess about Squad's business model after reaching a saturated market situation with KSP?
Do you want to take that one on?
That's actually an interesting question. So,
I don't know that they're going to hit a saturated market, do you?
Well, I brought that up to Max Maps whenever we were talking with him last time. I said, do you think everybody who wants it already has it? Because they wanted it so bad they jumped into early access. And he said, no, we've had a significant, just coming out of it, there are a lot of people that were waiting. And, early access can do that. You spend so much time and money trying to get the thing made that your return on investment on release isn't as big as you might anticipate because you've already sold it to everyone who really wants it.
Can I say something that is going to unleash an unholy scream from the entire audience?
What's that?
Is Squad ever considering putting Kerbalcast on a console? Kerbalcast, Kerbal Space Program. Listen to me. I wonder. I can't imagine this game on a console, but that is an untapped market for them.
Yeah.
And please, I know you're all screaming, but it's a question.
So, back to board games. So, Kickstarter is there's also video game Kickstarters, so that works also. It's a very viable market for people who are up and coming trying to get something made. It's pretty much kind of like early access, except you just get to watch the development of it and you get to buy it early on. Well, people have done Kickstarters I just know more about the board game area of Kickstarters than the video game area. They've made the thing, and whenever they try to get it into game stores don't order it. And their reasoning wise because everyone who wants it already has it.
Right.
so they don't make a lot of money post Kickstarter unless the game was just phenomenal. That could be something that they're headed toward, where they had a lot of sales in the early access. And now that it's out, everybody that wants it already has it. And they'll get word of mouth, so they'll get more people in. People are like, hey, you know, Kerbal is now out of beta, so I guess it's done. Maybe I'll try that out. And Steam sales will always give them a boost and things like that. But I think eventually it'll hit that point, and the thing that will pull them out of it is like when they introduce multiplayer. Some people were probably waiting for that. When they introduce some big thing, like big updates will rope in more people. Eventually, will they have to move on to something else? Yes, because, you know, things just time out after a while.
Right.
Like even the most successful things, like you're having to wait for a whole new generation of people to grow up and want to play that game because you've already taken on this market. You have to wait for a new market to form, or you have to make something new for the current market. Do I think they'll hit that? Yes, because that's inevitable. Everyone does. But do I think it will be soon and drastic? No, I think they definitely have time.
I can't help but think that whatever their second act is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you hit with a best-selling novel or a number one single or a big album or a big hit movie, everybody's always looking at what you're going to follow it with. And the pressure is so high. When Squad started this game, and, you know, I'm sure they kind of felt like we're this dinky little game studio in Mexico City and nobody expects anything of us. And they created this just incredible game. Whatever they do from this point forward, people are going to go, they are a professional game developer with a hit game. What are they going to do next?
Yeah. And a lot of...
Oh, and I should announce, by the way, they did skydive, and they did not wipe out their entire development team.
Oh, okay, good.
That's a plus.
They didn't have to revert. That's good.
Yeah.
So we have
I thought it was Max Maps tweeted that his rear end still hurts from the landing.
Mine does from the new aerodynamics model. So whenever they started...
his butt hurt.
Whenever they started, the company, they had that idea in mind for that game.
Right.
Well, if they wanted... I mean, they're also PR agencies, so they could go do that thing. You know, they could go back to that, or they can continue making other games. But, I mean, chances are, during development, a lot of, like, shoot-off ideas happen.
Right.
And those can lead to other games, you know, or they can find some idea from someone they like, and just kind of like any of the mods they've bought from content creators, you know, they could do that. Kind of like the college kids that made Portal. And then Valve was like, hey, we really want to make, like, Portal. You know, hop on with us.
Right.
So, I mean, they could do things like that. I mean, it's not like... I really, really doubt that Squad is just like a one-trick pony.
Right.
You know? I don't think it's just they're going to be one and done. Like,
Right.
oh, yeah, we got it. Okay, that's our thing. That's all we have.
Well, and not to keep banging the same drum, but I look at Kerbal and I see, because of the fact that it started out so bare bones... I see so many areas where they could expand and develop the game.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You know, right now, you know, interiors of spacecraft, you cannot maneuver around in. They could do that. There is nothing on the planets. You know, there's on Kerbin, you know, there's no cities. There's nothing. You could do that. I mean, there's so many things they could do. They could go sci-fi with it. They could... I mean, there's just so many directions they could go with this. And the fact that it's an open-ended game actually gives them a lot more longevity than a, quote, one-and-done game would.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this isn't a game where you play a story and then you're done with it. This is a game where it's, every time you play it, even though you're doing the same things, a lot of the same things over and over, it's never the same. And so they can keep adding content to it up to a point. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a point at which that has diminishing returns. But I mean, before they hit market saturation, I think they've got a long way to go.
Oh, yeah.
At least that's my feeling.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be our next podcast.
Maybe that's our next controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Max Maps is probably going to push them into 2D gaming from this point on.
Oh, yeah, get some roguelikes going.
Yeah. I still like the idea of Super Kerbin Brothers. Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah.
Din, 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 din,
No, you can't go any farther than that. Copyright.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Jeb will swallow like a mushroom, and he'll get like 4 sizes taller.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you finish? Yeah, you finished the tweets. We're done with the tweets. Done with the tweets.
Final stage expended.
We want to thank, since we're wrapping things up, we want to thank all of our listeners and regular contributors, and obviously anyone who sent us letters or tweets. We do appreciate that. Big thanks to the subreddit moderators for Kerbal Space Program and Kerbal Academy.
Okay, so episode music comes to us from Professor Soap. You can find him on Facebook or at profsoap.com. And as a treat for you guys, Professor Soap has given us a track off of his upcoming album, Experiments. And you're going to hear that pretty much after Happy Kerbaling.
Right.
So stay tuned, and you'll get to hear the latest song from his latest album. Enjoy.
I will, and I do want to point this out. When you hear it, because we encode the podcast at 64 kilobits a second, and we're mono.
Yeah.
So we're going to play the whole track, but the actual track is going to be full blown stereo and the whole bit. So you're going to hear like the AM radio version of.
Yeah. So we record it like that in order to save you guys space.
Yeah.
And so it's and our voices never sounded great anyway, so we're not going to compromise quality. So
Can you imagine if every week it's like here's Kerbalcast 15 gigabytes.
Yeah, and it's like this is crystal clear audio. I can hear them so well.
4-track audio.
I can tell when they're constipated. I can hear their voices so well. Like,
those mic hits are so clear.
They destroy my speakers every time they do it. I hear each ear flapping on the dog.
Flap, 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 flap.
So stay tuned, and you'll hear a new song off of the upcoming album. He has a full album coming out. So he's had some like EP sort of things, and all of his music he has up for free, but like the full album, I'm really pumped about that.
Have you ever seen some of his videos?
Yeah, they're so cool.
Oh, they're so neat.
And they're all so different. He's he's extremely talented because he does those.
Yeah.
He does his music videos, the animation, the claymation, all that stuff.
What I think is amazing about the videos is they're almost like stream of consciousness images.
Yeah.
It's like a ship on waves, and the video is the ship going over the waves, or an astronaut spiraling through space, or it's just simple images that just kind of move.
Yeah, and like things come in and out of them,
it's very trance-like.
Like Spirit Quest Journey, had all the different little creatures walking in and out, and they would come in when different parts of the music changed. So you're just like watching it grow and like change. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really
does a really
is.
good job.
I also want to do a big thank you to Ascalon. He's not only posting episodes of Kerbalcast to YouTube, but as we talked about before, they are transcribing it so that we don't have Homer to your mobile and contact highs and
all sorts of weird things coming through.
Yeah,
and he's looking for help. So if you want to help him out, he's definitely available for that.
Yeah, on Twitter he is @intdef. We would like to tell you, if you'd like to get in touch with us, our email, as always, kerbalpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it is @Kerbalcast.
You can also subscribe to us on iTunes, and all of Kerbalcast can be downloaded at kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com.
And you can find us occasionally on Steam as Biff Aldrin and Nostromo. I got on Steam the other day, and people were like, "Biff, you're alive!" Like, I'm always alive. And if what
he was getting married.
I was getting married.
You're getting married
at the dog park.
If you'd like to support Kerbalcast, you can donate at patreon.com/Kerbalcast.
Yes.
That wraps it up for Kerbalcast.
Yes, it does. Episode 50.
Stay tuned for a new track by Professor Soap.
That's right. Off their new album, Experiments. That does it for Kerbalcast episode 50, Beyond Thunderdome. I am your LMP, that's Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, our CMP, Command Module Pilot
Nostromo.
Until next time,
happy Kerbaling.